December 2, 1984, 2300 hours. Inside the Union Carbide pesticide facility in Bhopal, India, a routine pipe washing operation is underway on a network of lines connected to tank 610. The tank holds 42 metric tons of methyl isocyanate, a compound with a boiling point of 39.1 degrees Celsius and a vapor density 1.97 times that of air. Somewhere in the plumbing network, water is moving where it must not go. The first pressure reading anomaly registers at 2330. No alarm sounds. The reaction has already begun. Methyl isocyanate, molecular formula CH3NCO, is an intermediate chemical compound used in the synthesis of carbamate pesticides, including 7, the primary product manufactured at the Bhopal facility. At standard pressure, MIC is a colorless liquid with a boiling point of 39.1 degrees Celsius. Its vapor pressure at 20 degrees Celsius is 348 millibars. It is hygroscopic, highly reactive with water, and toxic at concentrations as low as 0.4 parts per million over a sustained exposure period. The compound binds to ocular, bronchial, and alveolar tissue through carbamylation, a process that disrupts cellular function at the molecular level. Union Carbide designed the Bhopal storage system around 3 underground MIC tanks, designated 610, 611, and 619, each rated to hold a maximum of 15 metric tons under normal operating parameters. Tank 610 held approximately 42 metric tons at the time of the incident, nearly 3 times the recommended capacity. Each tank was connected to a refrigeration unit designed to maintain MIC at 0 to 5 degrees Celsius, suppressing vapor pressure and reducing reactivity. The system also included a vent gas scrubber to neutralize any escaping gas with caustic soda, and a flare tower designed to combust residual vapor before atmospheric release. This was the designed containment envelope. All 3 layers were active in specification. None were fully operational on the night of December 2, 1984. By late 1984, the Bhopal facility was operating under conditions that deviated substantially from its original engineering specifications. Production of 7 had declined sharply due to market contraction, and plant management had implemented a series of cost reduction measures that directly affected the integrity of the MIC storage safety network. The most consequential of these was the decommissioning of the refrigeration unit connected to the MIC storage tanks. The unit had been shut down in June 1984, and its freon coolant had been drained and transferred to another part of the facility. Without active refrigeration, tank 610 was being maintained at ambient temperature, which in December ranged between 15 and 20 degrees Celsius. This meant the vapor pressure within the tank was substantially elevated above the design baseline. The vent gas scrubber, the secondary containment system designed to neutralize MIC vapor with the sodium hydroxide solution before it could reach the atmosphere, had been placed in standby mode for maintenance. Facility records indicate it was not operational. The flare tower, the tertiary defense, was also offline. A section of connecting pipe between the vent header and the flare tower had been removed for maintenance and had not been reinstalled. The 3 mechanical barriers between 42 metric tons of MIC and the open atmosphere were, in sequence, dormant, bypassed, and physically incomplete. No formal safety risk assessment was filed acknowledging this concurrent deactivation. The sequence of events on the night of December 2, 1984, originates in a routine maintenance procedure. Workers were assigned to flush a section of pipe connected to the MIC storage network using pressurized water. Standard protocol required the installation of slip blind plates, physical disc barriers inserted into pipe flanges to prevent water from migrating into connected systems during washing operations. Investigative records, including the findings published by the Indian Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, indicate that the slip blind plates were either not installed or were improperly seated in the relevant pipe sections on that night. Water entered the pipe network and followed the path of least resistance toward tank 610. The volume of water that ultimately reached the tank has been estimated at between 500 and 2,000 liters across multiple investigations, with the CSIR report settling on a figure of approximately 500 liters as the most conservative estimate consistent with observed pressure behavior. Upon contact with MIC, water initiates a rapid exothermic hydrolysis reaction. MIC plus water yields methylamine and carbon dioxide. The reaction is self-accelerating. Heat generated by initial contact raises the temperature of the surrounding MIC, increasing its vapor pressure, which accelerates further reaction. The tank was not instrumented with a continuous real-time temperature sensor capable of triggering an automatic isolation. The process began in the pipe network and was well advanced before the first anomalous pressure reading was logged by a plant operator at approximately 2300. At 2300 hours, the pressure gauge on tank 610 registered approximately 2 pounds per square inch. This reading was within a range that operators had been conditioned to treat as within normal variance, partly because the gauges had a history of providing erratic readings due to poor maintenance. No immediate action was taken. Over the following 90 minutes, the exothermic hydrolysis reaction inside the tank continued without intervention. By approximately 0015 on December 3, pressure had risen to approximately 30 psi. By 0030, readings had reached 55 psi, which exceeded the design pressure rating of the tank and its associated valve systems. The temperature sensors installed on tank 610 were of a type that required manual reading rather than continuous electronic logging. Operators checking the gauges at intervals did not have a real-time picture of the rate of temperature change inside the tank. Forensic reconstruction of the reaction thermodynamics, performed by independent engineers reviewing the CSIR data, estimated that the internal temperature of tank 610 had reached between 150 and 200 degrees Celsius by the time the safety relief valve actuated. At that temperature, MIC was not only reacting with water, but was also beginning to trimerize, producing additional exothermic energy and further compounds including trimethyl isocyanurate. The reaction was no longer a single pathway. It was a coupled thermal runaway with multiple simultaneous chemical processes generating heat and pressure faster than any passive containment system could absorb. At approximately 0030 on December 3, 1984, the pressure inside tank 610 reached the actuation threshold of the safety relief valve. The valve opened to prevent mechanical rupture of the tank structure itself. This was the system functioning as designed in the narrowest mechanical sense. The valve prevented the tank from physically exploding. What it could not do was address the substance now being released. The open relief valve vented MIC vapor and associated reaction products directly into the vent header pipe system, the network designed to route escaping gas toward the scrubber and flare tower. The mass of material discharged through this pathway over the following 2 hours has been estimated at approximately 40 metric tons of MIC vapor, along with reaction byproducts including hydrogen cyanide, carbon monoxide, and methylamine, though the exact composition of the plume remains a subject of ongoing scientific dispute. The relief valve, once opened by the pressure differential, remained open as the reaction continued to generate gas faster than the internal pressure could stabilize. The tank was effectively venting in an uncontrolled continuous stream. The vent header delivered this stream to the scrubber inlet. The scrubber was in standby. The caustic soda solution was not circulating. The neutralization reaction did not occur. Gas passed through the scrubber housing without chemical attenuation and continued toward the flare tower connection point. The flare tower represented the final engineered barrier in the Union Carbide containment system. Under operational conditions, gas reaching the flare tower would be ignited and combusted, converting MIC vapor into less acutely toxic combustion products before atmospheric dispersal. On December 3, 1984, the flare tower was not in a condition to perform this function. A section of piping connecting the vent gas header to the base of the flare tower had been removed for maintenance. The physical connection between the gas stream and the ignition system did not exist. MIC vapor reached the disconnected pipe terminus and vented directly to the atmosphere at ground level, at a discharge point approximately 30 meters above grade on the scrubber stack. The facility had also installed a water curtain system, a series of high-pressure sprinkler lines designed to knock down and dissolve gas clouds near the plant boundary. This system was activated. However, the water curtain was engineered to reach a maximum height of approximately 15 meters. The discharge point of the gas was at 30 meters. The curtain did not intersect the rising vapor plume. Additionally, MIC vapor, with its density nearly double that of air, did not rise significantly under the ambient temperature and wind conditions present that night. The plume moved laterally at low altitude along the ground surface in the direction of the prevailing wind, which was oriented toward the densely populated residential settlements to the south and southeast of the facility perimeter. The Union Carbide facility operated an internal alarm system designed to alert plant personnel to abnormal conditions within the MIC storage area. At approximately 00:15, a public siren, distinct from the internal alarm, was briefly activated and then deactivated by plant management on the stated basis that it would cause unnecessary public panic. A second activation occurred at approximately 0200, after the primary release was already well advanced. The gap between the onset of the detectable release and the public alarm represents a period of approximately 90 minutes during which the surrounding population received no official notification of any kind. There was no established emergency notification protocol connecting the Union Carbide facility to municipal authorities, local police, or public health infrastructure. The city of Bhopal had no hazardous material emergency response plan for the facility, despite its classification as a major hazard installation under Indian regulatory frameworks. The facility's own emergency response documentation did not include procedures for off-site notification in the event of a large-scale MIC release. Residents in the settlements of Jayaprakash Nagar, Chola Road, and Railway Colony, located between 1 and 2 kilometers from the plant perimeter, encountered the plume without warning. Many were asleep when the gas reached ground-level concentration. There was no coordinated evacuation instruction, no designated assembly point, and no authority present with either the information or the resources to direct a response of any kind. The medical response to the Bhopal event was constrained from its first moments by a structural absence of information about the chemical agent involved. Hamidia Hospital, the primary public referral facility in Bhopal, began receiving patients in large numbers from approximately 100 onward. Physicians encountered a consistent presentation: severe ocular irritation, bronchospasm, pulmonary edema, and cardiovascular compromise. The treating medical staff had no material safety data sheet for methyl isocyanate. Union Carbide's own medical officer at the facility initially declined to confirm the identity or toxicological properties of the released substance to external medical personnel, citing proprietary concerns. The Indian Medical Association and state health authorities had no pre-established treatment protocol for MIC exposure. Clinical management in the acute phase defaulted to symptomatic treatment, oxygen administration, bronchodilators, and supportive care. The question of whether sodium thiosulfate, a cyanide antidote, should be administered given evidence of hydrogen cyanide in the plume was actively debated among physicians without resolution during the critical treatment window. Hospital capacity was saturated within hours. Patients were being triaged on outdoor grounds. Pharmaceutical supplies of ophthalmic treatments, bronchodilators, and intravenous fluids were exhausted before dawn. The saturation of local medical infrastructure was total, and the absence of a defined chemical identity for the causative agent directly constrained the clinical options available to treating physicians throughout the acute phase. Post-incident atmospheric modeling and physical evidence recovery established the following parameters for the Bhopal release. The total mass of MIC discharged from tank 610 through the vent header and scrubber stack is estimated at between 36 and 40 metric tons, based on the differential between the known pre-incident tank inventory and the residual material recovered after the event. The active discharge period, defined as the interval between initial relief valve actuation and pressure equalization within the tank, lasted approximately 2 hours, from approximately 0030 to 0230 on December 3, 1984. Peak atmospheric concentrations of MIC in the immediate vicinity of the plant perimeter have been estimated at between 1,000 and 10,000 parts per million, based on dispersion modeling using recorded meteorological data from that night. Wind speed was recorded at approximately 7 kilometers per hour from a north-northeast direction, with an atmospheric stability class of F, indicating very stable, low turbulence conditions that suppressed vertical dispersion and concentrated the plume at ground level. The immediately dangerous to life and health concentration for MIC, as established by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, is 3 parts per million. The concentrations modeled within a 2-kilometer radius of the discharge point exceeded this threshold by factors of several hundred at peak. The persistence of ground-level concentration above acute injury thresholds is estimated at between 2 and 4 hours across the affected residential zone, consistent with the duration of acute symptom onset reported in clinical intake records from that morning. The formal technical investigation into the Bhopal incident was conducted by multiple bodies, including the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research of India, which published its findings in 1985. The CSIR report established the water ingress hypothesis as the primary causal mechanism and documented the concurrent failure state of all three containment systems. Union Carbide commissioned its own investigation, which reached broadly similar mechanical conclusions while attributing water entry to deliberate sabotage by a disgruntled employee, a position that was not adopted by Indian regulatory or judicial authorities. The incident directly catalyzed regulatory reform in the United States and internationally. In the United States, the Environmental Protection Agency and Occupational Safety and Health Administration jointly developed the Process Safety Management Standard, codified as OSHA 29 CFR 119.119, finalized in 1992. PSM requires facilities handling threshold quantities of highly hazardous chemicals to maintain written process safety information, conduct formal process hazard analyses, establish mechanical integrity programs for critical equipment, and maintain pre-startup safety reviews before returning any safety-critical system to service following maintenance. The Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act, passed in 1986, established mandatory disclosure requirements for hazardous chemical inventories and required local emergency planning committees to maintain response protocols for facilities posing off-site hazard potential. These frameworks formalized in regulatory code the specific systemic gaps that the Bhopal facility exhibited on December 2 and 3, 1984. Concurrent safety system deactivation, absence of community notification infrastructure, and the absence of documented chemical hazard information available to emergency responders.